What's up, YouTube? Welcome back. It's a beautiful evening here at the end of November, and just had someone comment asking for an update on stage 1 injector installation in my truck. So thought I'd head on down to the toy box here. There's our camper there on the left, my dad's camper on the right. There's the Massey Ferguson 180 we've been playing with here a little bit. The trailer, bunch of Powerstroke parts, haybine, bunch of other junk, and of course the truck. So I thought that's a great idea, absolutely great idea. Let's post an update on reliability and experience thus far with the stage 1 injectors. So I'll start with some numbers here, and we'll pop the hood. And I will preface all of this by saying that the engine in this truck is not very tight. It suffers from relatively low compression on a couple of cylinders. I'm going to end up needing to do something with it at some point or another, because it was dusted pretty bad by the previous owner. The intake tubing was more duct tape than it was rubber when I bought it, and I think it ate a lot of sand and dirt. So it's been dusted, it's low on compression, it could be tighter. So take this information and all these numbers with a grain of salt. Your mileage may vary. What my experience has been here may not be your experience necessarily. That said, it's a 97 crew cab long bed 4x4 F350. We've got the ZF S547 transmission, 5-speed, and 355 rear end gears. 355s, remember that, that's important, because that puts everything in perspective when we start talking about towing and performance and mileage and everything else. So I installed Rosewood diesel stage 1 injectors in this truck just a little over 4 years ago. Those went in the middle of November 2017, and I've been using the truck in this configuration ever since. Reliability, I would say, has been outstanding. I had an issue with the wiring to the pressure switch for my electronic fuel pump. There were a couple of videos that I did here a few years back, kind of going through the process of troubleshooting that, hunting that issue down. I think that video is called Under Pressure. I'll go ahead and put a card for that in the corner here. Aside from that, and the little escapade that we had here this past weekend where the vacuum pump failed me 2 hours away from home early on a Saturday morning, the truck has been rock solid. I've done little things. I had to put a CPS in it this past summer. CPS crapped the bed and stopped me on the side of the road, but I knew what that was just based on the symptoms. The truck bucked and hesitated a couple of times real hard, and every time it did it, tachometer went to 0, even though the engine was still spinning. It's 5-speed, so with the clutch out, the engine's still spinning. I was rolling down the road towing that camper at the time, and identified pretty quickly that it was a bad CPS. 10 minutes later, I pulled the one out of the toolbox, swapped it into the truck, and we were on the road again. So, issue with the fuel was just loose connections. The spade connectors on that switch had kind of fatigued or something over time and had loosened up, and they would intermittently lose connection and the fuel pump would cut out. Had the issue with the CPS. We've had the issue with the vacuum pump, and that's really it in the last 4 years. Now, in that time, I've put about 21,200 miles on this truck. Probably a little over that, but that's pretty close. The truck doesn't get a ton of use, as you can see. I mean, I'm putting, 5,000 miles a year on it. But the use that it does see, a lot of it is towing. I use it to tow our travel trailer. We've been as far as Florida with that in the last 4 years. I use it to tow this flatbed all the time, moving equipment and trucks with the trailer. That trailer weighs about 1,500 pounds by itself. It's pretty heavy. It does not tow real well, so it puts the truck through its paces. And just this past weekend, we went down to Tennessee and brought home our next project, Project Maryland. I'll put another card in the video here for that project. It's a 1969 Rolls-Royce Silver Shadow. So that car weighs about 4,600 pounds by itself. You count the trailer, and we're over 6,000 pounds. So the route that I take to go to where we were, we go down the West Virginia Turnpike. And if you've ever driven that section of road, you know that it is not flat and it is not straight. And I will tell you what, this truck absolutely handles that route like a champ. My dad was riding shotgun with me all the way down there and back, and on the way back, he said, "Man, this thing just cruises, doesn't it?" And that's with 355 gears. With those gears in overdrive, going through the mountains there, I was doing 70, 72 miles an hour the whole way, with 6,000 pounds behind me, plus 3 of us in the cab, plus our tools and equipment and some furniture in the bed. Combined weight, we were probably somewhere in the range of 14,000 pounds. So, not a lot by today's standards when you can buy an F-350 with a 20,000 pound towing rating, but it works pretty good for an old truck. What I will say is, with these gears, to keep that turbo happy, I got to keep the speed up. 72 miles an hour puts me at about 2,200 RPMs, which is right where that turbo wants to be to start building boost, and 20 pounds comes very easily. I do have a Riff Raff diesel billet wheel in that turbo. Aside from that, it's a stock turbo. It's got the stock exhaust housing on it, so it's a 1.15 aspect ratio exhaust housing. I think the next upgrade to this, the most logical thing to do would be a different turbo. I've really kind of been thinking about the S364.5. I think a little bit smaller snail on that, and something a little bit more efficient that could bring the boost in closer to 1,800 RPMs would really make this thing perform well. Haven't done that so far, and largely because I haven't needed it. So, as I said, 6,000 pounds through the West Virginia Turnpike, and I didn't have to back out of it in the hills at all. I tend to tow on one of my more conservative tunes, just to keep the smoke down and to keep the EGTs in check, but very, very seldom do I have to back out of it because the EGTs are getting out of hand. It'll creep up on 1,200 degrees EGT, but very seldom will it go much over that. You get up around that 1,200 degree mark, and this thing just starts making boost and just goes. So it is intercooled, as you can see. That's a 6-liter intercooler in front of the radiator. I built the piping myself. We do have an open element filter in it. That's just your Napa 6637 filter. I got that kit from Riff Raff Diesel. So that's kind of what the modifications to the truck are. I am very, very, very pleased with it. I run a 5-inch turbo back exhaust. It's a 3-inch downpipe to a 5-inch tailpipe. No muffler. It's a little bit loud at highway speeds, but I don't think the muffler makes any difference. If you want to run 75 miles an hour, you kind of get out of the RPM range where it drones a lot. That puts you at about 2,400 RPMs, and the truck is super happy at that speed. 75 miles an hour, this thing just eats it up. It'll do it all day. That's a little bit fast for towing, in my opinion, at least with the trailers that I've got. This is older equipment and they don't tow real well. If I had a gooseneck trailer or something like that and higher speed rated tires than this junk, I wouldn't hesitate to go that fast. But with this equipment, 72, 74 is about all I really want to go. Our travel trailer weighs in a little bit heavier than this flatbed in the car did. It's probably close to 7,000 pounds. Once we get it loaded and I fill the water tank, and the truck handles it like a champ. It absolutely performs really, really well. Like I said, we towed that all the way down to Destin, Florida and back here about 3 years ago. And aside from the length of the drive and the fact that we went through the remnants of a hurricane on the way home, I would do it again in a heartbeat. The truck just performed really, really well. So, very, very pleased. I cannot say enough good stuff about Jim Rose and Rosewood Diesel. He builds a really, really good injector. He's great to work with. His customer service can't be matched. Rosewood Diesel also, Riff Raff Diesel Performance also. Clay and the team out at Riff Raff do a great job. I'm not sponsored by either one of those guys. They're not paying me to say that. I just say that based on having worked with them and my experience. I highly recommend those guys, and I really feel good supporting people who support these old trucks. So, cannot say enough good stuff about this setup. Like I said, I think the next logical thing would be more air and probably eventually a motor rebuild just to tighten this thing up. But at this point, there's 273s sitting right there, so I'm inclined to just push this thing and keep running it. I don't think there's a whole lot to be gained by freshening this motor up and investing that money, though someday down the road I would like to do that. But that's about it for now. Thank you for posting up, asking about that follow-up. It's a great question. I'm really pleased with how this thing is done for me. Got nothing but good things to say about this setup. These are good old trucks. One of the things that I really like about them is that when you have an issue, because you will, you can fix it yourself on the side of the road or in the parking lot in front of an AutoZone. So that's it for now. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.